The death of a young child is always shocking, but it's even more chilling when they are brutally murdered. In the case of 11-week-old Parker Bowes, he was murdered by none other than his father. At Gibson County Courthouse, Judge Robert Sigg is about to deliver the final verdict for Quinn Bowes, a father sentenced for the unthinkable crime of ending his infant son's life. However, someone else in the courthouse is also considering delivering a less conventional retribution. In May 2018, the Indiana town was shocked to its core. The reason? 11-week-old Parker Bowes was found lifeless, his fragile body subjected to blunt force head trauma. You'd think the perpetrator was some psychopath, unknown deviant, but it turned out to be his own father, 23-year-old Quinn Bowes. As investigators pieced together the grim details of Parker's final moments, the evidence pointed to Parker being attacked by his father, even though Quinn claimed the baby had gotten his bruises from an accident. Arrested and charged with first-degree murder, Quinn faced the possibility of 40 years in prison. However, things took an unexpected turn when Quinn's trial was abruptly cancelled and a plea agreement was reached. In exchange for the dismissal of the more severe charge of first-degree murder, Quinn pled guilty to a level 2 felony charge of domestic battery resulting in death. This plea agreement significantly altered the course of Quinn's fate, reducing his potential incarceration and upsetting everyone who was close to the case. The judge sentenced Quinn Bowes to 19 years in prison and 6 years probation. As Quinn Bowes was led out of the courtroom to serve his sentence, Jeremiah Hartley, known affectionately as Matt, the baby's uncle, was no longer overcome by only grief, but also with deep rage and anger. In seconds, Matt lunged forward, swiftly attacking Bowes. This act of raw emotion and acting on impulse resulted in Matt facing a battery charge and 179 days in jail for contempt of court, which many felt was too strong a punishment. Now let's head over to Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court, where LaCynthia Tidmore, a 25-year-old from Garfield Heights, found herself at the center of a legal storm after a hit-and-run accident that claimed the life of a 9-year-old girl, Desiree May. The story begins on a November morning in 2017 in the community of Euclid. Desiree May, a 9-year-old girl, was making her way to the bus stop, headed for school. However, as Desiree crossed Babbitt Road, a vehicle driven by Tidmore struck her. Rather than stopping to call for help or aid the little girl, Tidmore fled the scene, leaving young Desiree injured, lying on the streets. It wasn't long before Tidmore's vehicle was discovered at a nearby gas station, abandoned and clearly showing the car had been in a recent collision. Tidmore, most likely realizing the gravity of her actions, made arrangements to turn herself in. She was charged with aggravated vehicular homicide and failure to stop after an accident. The investigation revealed no prior criminal history that could predict such behavior. Tidmore, at her original sentencing hearing, claimed that she did not realize she had hit a child. Despite her assertion, the legal system found Tidmore guilty of the charges. After pleading guilty to third-degree felony charges of aggravated vehicular homicide and failure to stop after an accident, Tidmore faced the consequences of her actions in a courtroom presided over by Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court Judge Peter J. Corrigan. Just before she was sentenced, the mother of the victim, who didn't get physical, had some scathing words for LaCynthia, words that proved even more brutal than fists. "I have to sit here and look at this woman who killed my daughter, and she laughed in my face like it was a joke. How is that sorry?" she said. "She broke both of my daughter's femurs. She was slashed from the inside out. She broke every bone in my daughter's face." Judge Peter J. Corrigan initially handed down the maximum consecutive sentences on the 2 charges. However, an appeal led to the reconsideration of the sentence. Tidmore will spend the next 8 years behind bars for a hit-and-run that killed a 9-year-old girl last November. In the end, Tidmore was again sentenced to 8 years in prison, the maximum possible sentence for her charges. Additionally, it was determined that upon her release from prison, she would be subjected to 3 years of mandatory post-release control. In a move that underscored the gravity of the offense, Tidmore's driver's license was also suspended for life. The fate of Jasmine Gordon and Clifford Thomas was sealed at the Wayne County Circuit Court. The two were convicted in a case that shook the community to its core, and the atmosphere in the courtroom was about to be shattered. Just as the two were sentenced, the father of their 3-year-old victim had retribution of his own to give them. The relationship between Jasmine, her boyfriend Clifford, and little Jamila Smith was complicated, with Jamila depending on the couple for care and protection. All of this changed on September 18, 2014, when Jamila was rushed to the hospital unresponsive. The emergency medical technician who responded to the call pressed Jasmine for answers but was met with silence. The forensic pathologist painted a grim picture of abuse with abrasions, internal bleeding, and a torn pancreas. Jamila's death was ruled a homicide, and Jasmine and Clifford were apprehended. Throughout the trial, the courtroom was a battleground of emotions, especially as testimonies from medical personnel who attended to Jamila indicated abuse. This child had over 50 injuries, and they were at various stages of healing. The medical examiner also testified that it was highly unlikely that this child could have inflicted these wounds upon herself, even if she was clumsy. Jasmine Gordon appeared emotionless throughout the court proceedings, her demeanor a stark contrast to the crime committed. Even the judge's scathing remarks weren't enough to get a reaction from her. "You pretended like you did not know that your child was being abused, either by you or the man that sat at home all day with your child while you worked and he did not," the judge remarked. As the court proceedings went on, Dwayne Smith, Jamila's grieving father, seemed to have had enough. In an unexpected move, he struck Thomas with a punch across the jaw, and a fight ensued. The deputies intervened quickly, pulling the two men apart. In the aftermath, the judge decided not to hold Dwayne Smith in contempt, which many in the courtroom agreed with, and Clifford Thomas declined to press charges. Judge Margaret Van Houten delivered the sentence, with Jasmine Gordon receiving 7 to 15 years for involuntary manslaughter and an additional 14 to 25 years for first-degree child abuse. As an aider and abettor, Clifford Thomas was handed a sentence of roughly 6 to 15 years for involuntary manslaughter and 1 to 2 years for resisting and obstructing a police officer. However, in 2017, an appeals court overturned Jasmine Gordon's conviction, saying the defense was so badly executed that in the ruling they referred to it as scientifically bankrupt. While our prior cases spotlighted the heart-wrenching murders of young children, this next killer took a child from their parents, and every victim, at any age, remains their child forever. It was this gut-wrenching truth that drove Van Terry, the father of one of Ohio's serial killer Michael Madison's 3 victims, to do the unthinkable: leap over a courtroom table and lunge at the defendant mere moments after the judge declared a death sentence. Let's go inside Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court, where tensions reached a boiling point. Michael Madison's life was a ticking time bomb. His childhood was marred by pain and neglect, devoid of the love and care most of us take for granted. As he grew older, his name became synonymous with crime, his record riddled with drug-related convictions dating back to the early 2000s. But it was in 2002 when his true monstrosity began to surface. Convicted of attempted rape, Madison was branded a sex offender, a label that barely scratched the surface of the horror to come. On July 19, 2013, the world came face to face with Madison's unimaginable brutality. Police, responding to complaints about a horrendous odor emanating from a garage leased by Madison, made a discovery that would shake East Cleveland to its core. Inside, they found a decomposing body. The discovery set off a frantic investigation that quickly escalated as 2 more bodies were unearthed, one buried in a backyard, the other hidden in the basement of a vacant house. The chilling proximity of these corpses, all within 100 to 200 yards of each other, encased in plastic bags, revealed a mind driven by cold, calculated evil. Chilling headlines from East Cleveland started to come out. Authorities believed they could very well have a serial killer in custody, with 3 bodies already found. Investigators say they've been told by the suspect there could be more, all of them women. Police, the sheriff's department, and the FBI are all on the scene tonight. The victims' names were soon revealed. 28-year-old Shatisha Shee, missing since September 2012, Angela Deskins, 38, a Cleveland resident who vanished in June 2013, and the youngest, Shelia Helen Terry, just 18 years old, last seen on July 10, 2013, as she left her summer job at a Cleveland elementary school. In July 2013, Madison was charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder, with bail set at a staggering $6 million. The trial began on April 4, 2016, and the prosecution unleashed a barrage of damning evidence, each piece weaving a macabre tapestry of Madison's guilt in the murders of Shelia Terry, Shatisha Shee, and Angela Deskins. But Madison, cold and remorseless, sat through the trial unflinching, a demeanor that would soon ignite a firestorm of rage in Van Terry, Shelia Terry's grieving father. Grief-stricken and consumed by fury, Terry snapped, charging at Madison in a courtroom explosion of raw, primal emotion. A father's agony laid bare. Right now, I guess we're supposed to, in our hearts, forgive this clown who touched our families, taking my child. No, 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 Terry declared, his voice trembling with the weight of his pain. Released without charges, Terry's outburst resonated with many who saw it as the only natural response to an unimaginable tragedy. Madison was ultimately convicted on all 13 counts. It is the judgment of this court that the aggravated circumstances of coercive conduct, felony murder, kidnapping, and felony murder rape of which the defendant was convicted outweigh the mitigating factors by proof beyond a reasonable doubt, the judge pronounced. And so, Michael Madison was sentenced to death for the brutal slayings of all 3 victims. Finally, the sentence of death is imposed upon the defendant, Michael Madison, on counts 14 and 7. Each courtroom moment shows us the depth of pain, emotion, and rage that the loss of a child can inflict. If you want to see more stories where justice is served either in the courtroom or by the parents who are wronged, subscribe and like Court Uncovered.